What is up guys, it's your boy Solheim here, back with another Wrath of the Lich King Classic video. So today we're talking about a somewhat of a sad topic, at least to me it is, and we're talking about the absolute downfall of the fresh Wrath servers. So, if you all remember, back at the Wrath pre-patch we got something that everyone, not everyone, but quite a few people were asking for. Actually, fresh Wrath servers, where we had to start at level 1, there was a brand new leveling race, people had to level up all the way from scratch, nobody had the epic mounts, nobody had any legendaries. Basically, it was a fresh start for Wrath of the Lich King Classic, which started during the pre-patch, and a ton of people loved this idea. Those servers were absolutely popping, to the point where Blizzard had to open more servers than they were originally intending to open. Now, what has happened since then? Well, quite a few things, and today I want to talk about it. We're talking about the absolute downfall of fresh Wrath servers once again. So, what I have done today is I've logged into the current, well, the PvE server, the fresh PvE server for Wrath Classic, for EU, which is called the Giant Stalker. If any of you guys played there, you probably know where this is heading. But this server has absolutely become like dead. It's currently a desert, there's almost nobody online, and I've been doing some player scans to back this up, so here we go. So I noticed this a couple of weeks ago when I was logging in to do my usual world event activities and my daily quests and also my weekly activities on my Warlock, and I noticed not really that many people was in Dalaran on Giant Stalker, and I was used to a bunch of people being in Dalaran, so I was like, what's up, what's happening here? I decided to do some player scans, and these are the results. We are currently looking at 74 players online on Giant Stalker, and to bring this one full circle, back at the pre-patch when these servers were actually fresh, I did a similar scan, once again, just one scan, seeing exactly how many players were online, and we got a number of 7,443. Bringing these two, like, back to back, you can see that one of them has, like, it's 100 times more. If you have 74 players, that is literally 1% is still there, and 99% of the entire fresh PvE server has currently abandoned ship, and today I want to discuss why this has happened, and I also just wanted to show you the reality of those fresh servers, and how absolutely barren they currently are. Like, the previous population was 7,443, and the current population is 74, literally that's 1%. We now have 1% of the player base we used to have in the Wrath pre-patch, and it's only been like, what, 5 or 6 months. That is absolutely crazy. So let's take a look at this and let's talk about why. I'm gonna list some reasons that I can think about in this video, but if you have any further ones then let me know in the comment section down below. So here we go. Some people treated this as a pre-patch activity, and after that hype went down, they went back to their original servers for Wrath's actual launch. I am partly to blame for this as well. I did the same thing myself. I leveled up on Giant Stalker, and when the expansion came out, I decided to level up my Boomkin on Pyrewood Village first, and then go back to Giant Stalker afterwards. I think a lot of people treated those fresh servers kind of like I did, as a side project, and then when they realized how many things they had to do on their main first in Wrath, those fresh servers, like their side project, just got pushed even more to the side, and once again I'm partly to blame for this as well. Also, some people only joined for the leveling race. Like, these were fresh servers, everyone had to start on level 1, and the leveling race was absolutely fantastic. Like, it's not like you have to treat it as a race, but definitely leveling in an environment where everyone is starting from scratch, it has a completely different feeling than leveling currently does. Next up, the idea of fresh servers sounded really appealing, but when people got to max level and realized they had to grind all over again, they quit. Like, think about all the items you stored up from TBC Classic that are still useful in Wrath Classic, for example. Like, let's just use flame caps. Most of you probably saved up quite a few flame caps for Wrath Classic. Well, you didn't really have those on the fresh servers because they were stored up on the old ones. Those are just one of the things, for example, but also the emotional attachment to their old characters were simply too strong, like for example mounts, achievements and other valuable items, maybe even your gold and your investments, like all the time you have put into your old characters that you had on the old TBC Classic servers. That attachment was simply too strong, and that made a lot of people simply go back. It just makes sense, to be honest. and yeah, that's it. As people started leaving, getting pug raids became more and more difficult. Even in the first few weeks of Wrath, like at the absolute peak, while I was pugging on Giant Stalker, there was a priest shortage. At the peak of the expansion, we had to manually whisper every level 80 priest on the server in order to find priests for our raids, and we usually had to bring in priests with fresh level 80 gear, like literally blue and green gear, so we had to whisper every priest online currently on the server to find a priest for Noxtramus. I don't think you actually need a priest, but it definitely made our strategy a lot simpler, and we were looking for at least one priest, preferably two, and that was very difficult to set up at that time, especially on Giant Stalker. I don't know if the PvP servers had the same thing, but yeah, it was really difficult to pug raids, and because not a lot of raiding guilds, like they were either full, because it was a closed off community that changed from the current Wrath service we have with the TBC Classic service back at that point. They changed their entire guild over to the fresh service, which means they had a full roster, so making a brand new raiding roster on these servers were difficult, and pugging was difficult as well. Now, the last nail in the coffin, for me at least, was the fresh economy, RIP, so a huge appeal was the fresh economy, and I was talking about this quite a bit myself. Having a fresh economy that hadn't been inflated by botting for 2 or 3 years, like Classic WoW currently is. There's millions of gold in circulation on every single server that has been only produced by bots, by the way. Like, there's literally hundreds of millions that have been produced by bots, and even now bots are running rampant in Wrath Classic. It's a major issue. It's been an issue for quite a while, and a major appeal of these Wrath servers, these fresh ones, is that they hadn't been that heavily inflated by botting. Sure, botting was still going to be a problem, but they hadn't been like bot infested for years. Now, the fact that Blizzard didn't really do anything about the botting situation, or they did a bare minimum, made this fresh economy kind of didn't really make any sense. The bots were still heavily pumping certain materials into the market, and also materials used for raiding, like flame caps for example, were in incredibly high demand and a very low supply, and people didn't have that much gold. But due to the simple supply versus demand metric, these were really expensive. Like at one point you would have to pay 200 to 250 gold for a single flame cap, and people simply paid it because they wanted to parse. So items that were used for raiding were incredibly expensive, people didn't have that gold, and bots were inflating the market with certain materials, so the prices were just like up and down and absolutely crazy. Now, all of these things also had a domino effect. All the other reasons made people leave, and the more people leave, the more people join in and left as well. Just like a domino effect. If 10 people starts leaving, suddenly the 11th person joins them, the 12th person joins as well, and so on until everyone leaves, and now we're sitting here with 1% of the population. I also did, like on a somewhat positive note, I did a similar scan on the popular PvP server Thekol, which was also a fresh server by the way. This one has not seen such a dramatic fall off, but has certainly lost a substantial amount of its player base as well. Either way, that's my take on the downfall of fresh Wrath servers, showing you the actual information on the previous population and the current population, and my theories behind it. Either way, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider dropping a like for the algorithm, and subscribe for more classic WoW content. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.